Hi, welcome to Danette Gets Creative. I'm Danette. It's been a while since I've been on here, and I wanted to take a little time to show you some bookmarks. So I've been making the bookmarks just plain with regular fabric. Now what I want to do is I want to do it with the slow stitch world. So I'm just going to leave those measurements up top there. And what I have is just a piece of scrap material. And then I just have some scrap material here that I just want to collage and then slow stitch. So hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've been on because you know how it is. Life just gets busy. So I haven't been able to do all the creating that I want to do. But that's okay. Here we are. We're doing it today. What's everybody working on? It's that coming to that time of season where people are going to start probably making Christmas gifts. So I thought these would be really cute. Quick, simple Christmas gifts that you could make for your family. If you have a book lover in your family, this would be ideal. And they're pretty quick. Oh, there's my cat. You cannot sit there, bud. You got to keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Good girl. You haven't seen her in a minute either. It never fails. Excuse me, that she wants to be seen. And then I get a tickle in my throat. Never fails. Anyway, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I get too hung up on my collaging here, and it takes a while for me to lay things down and be happy with them. Okay, you got to keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving. Good girl. So just, you know, this is a great scrap buster. Great way to use up your scraps. And I know if you're like me, we've got a lot of scraps. I don't want to do too many colors on here. I don't want to make it too busy. So just a few colors. Just to make it pretty. There. We'll call that done. So what I'll do is I'll just pin these down. I was going to glue them down. Maybe I'll just do that. Maybe I'll glue them and then I won't have to fight with pins. Because we all know that small little projects like this, we usually poke ourselves a couple of times. So maybe I'll avoid poking myself by gluing them down. Just a little bit of glue. Just enough to hold it in place. And then I'll do some stitching so I can stitch them down. Put some under this guy. Pop this one back down. What a hot mess I got going on here. Whoop, drop my glue. I'm a little out of sorts today, but that's okay. No, I had it this way. This. Okay. I will call that collaged. And then what I will do is I will press pause and I will... No, I'll keep going. I will press pause because my cat's getting back in here. And I will come back with the slow stitching part. See you in a bit. Hi, back here we are. Do a little slow stitching. So I thought I'd just hop back on here and show you. So I'll just continue to go across and then I'll come back. Okay, here we are. It's all stitched down. I left a little bit of space around the edges because I'm going to use the sewing machine to sew it all together. I found a little piece of lace on my desk, so I thought I'd use that. I found some little yo-yos. I thought I'd put those there. You don't want to put too much stuff because it is a bookmark and you don't want to add too much bulk. But what I did think I would do is I'm going to grab something to stamp on. Hold on one second. There we go. I have a piece of ribbon and I've already given it a test. So I have distressed ink here and I have my little rubber stamps that I got. And I'm just going to stamp the word read. So I started with the R and I'm going to put the E. I'm just going to hold it for a second so it absorbs in there. E. It's certainly not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's part of what crafting is all about. Embracing the imperfections. A. And then D. You could customize it and use somebody's name. You could put words of inspiration on there. The possibilities are endless with the words. So if you wanted to make them as a Christmas present, personalizing them would be really sweet. Or if someone reads a certain genre, you could put that on there. And then I'm just going to snip it. And my thoughts are, move that out of the way. My thoughts are, I could put it down here. So maybe move these up a smidge. Stitch that down there. I think that'll work. So I'll go off camera. I'll stitch these down with a little bit of white and then I'll come back. So I added the reed and I only added one yo-yo or suffet puff. I didn't want to make it too thick. Now what I'm doing is I'm just using, I just had a little bit of thread left from sewing it down. So I just thought I'd add a few extra details. I'm just putting some little X's in just to create a little more interest. Might as well use up the thread I've got. Just add a few, kind of like mark making. Add a few little extra additions to it. Finish up this little piece of thread here. As I was sitting with the camera off, sewing down the word read, I was counting up how many customized bookmarks I could make. As you've heard me say before, probably if you've watched my videos, I'm a teacher. So it'd be kind of cool if I was to make a bookmark for all my kiddos and customize it for their name. Mind you, that would be 27 students and that would take a little bit of time, but it'd be pretty cool. Okay, so that's the front. What I have is I have a piece of interfacing that I've cut to the exact same size, 2.5 by 6.5. So I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to put the interfacing. And then I have just a regular piece of scrap that I found that kind of matched. So you're making a sandwich, right side up, interfacing, right side down. Oh, there's my kitty cat. So I'm just going to flip that over. And what we need is we also need a little tab at the top. So I have a piece of pink ribbon that I'm just going to cut. And I know with my other ones, I cut it to be 3 inches-ish. I didn't really measure this one, but what you want to do is you just want to fold it over. You want to put it in between the layers at the top. And I'm just going to place a pin in that. And then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine. And I'm going to run the sewing machine all the way around and do a top stitch. Okay, and then I'll come back and I will show you once I've done the top stitch. Okay, it is all sewn on the edges. You wouldn't have to use a sewing machine. And in fact, I'm going to make a few more. I don't think I'm going to use my sewing machine because my sewing machine is not stitching the best. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim the edges with my pinking shears. Just to give it a different edge. You could leave the frayed edge. You could totally do that. I don't want to do that because in some spots I have some of my interfacing showing, so I want to make sure I get rid of that. So I'm just going to trim up the edges. This edge is kind of tiny, so it's not necessarily going to trim properly. And then you can see down here I have quite a bit of extra interfacing showing there. So you could just use felt in between. It's just to give it the stability, give it a bit of rigidness to it. The ones that I did earlier, where I didn't, what a mess I've made, oh my goodness, where I didn't do the slow stitching on them, I find they're not as rigid. They're quite flimsy. So I think I could use maybe a thicker interfacing